Welcome to Wandering the Wild Mess, the podcast for anyone starting over, navigating a new chapter, or rewriting their story. I'm Heather Morgan, and if you've ever thought to yourself, what am I doing with my life? You're in the right place. Here we take the lessons in the messes, reframe the hard moments, and remember that even the wildest stories always work out. I'm so happy you're here. Now let's wander this wild mess together. Dating is wild. One day you're sharing a life with someone you've known for years, and the next you're sitting across from a stranger trying to decide if you want another drink. Nobody really prepares you for how different dating feels after a long-term relationships. The vulnerability, the awkwardness, the excitement, and the disappointment.
Very real.
So we're going to talk about it, why modern dating can feel both exciting and completely ridiculous at the same time. Welcome to Wandering the Wild Mess with Heather Morgan. I am so happy that you're here. Y'all, I'm so excited to talk to you about what we all know, everyone wants to hear about, everyone wants to talk about, and maybe this is just my current universe of my life right now, but being single and dating again after a divorce or a long-term relationship. And it's kind of the elephant in the room because either you're actively dating and trying to find your person or you're absolutely exhausted from the reality of what it is. And or both can be true. And so I want to welcome a guest of mine, a great friend I met out here in Nashville, who also has been navigating her own dating experiences after leaving a long-term relationship and moving to Nashville on her own after that ended. So a lot of similarities to my story, and I think that you guys will really love what she has to say. So welcome Taylor Ely to the show.
Yes, well, I'm so happy to be here. And I feel like it's so full circle to be on your podcast, being that we met at a podcast party
Yes.
a year and a half ago. And it's just crazy, I think, just for the both of us, just all the ways life has changed since then and evolved and grown. And obviously, you're being one of my closest friends here. And it's just funny. It's like, yeah, sometimes when you take the leap, you just don't know like who you're going to connect with kind of on the way down. And so it's been really fun to be on the journey.
Well, let's kind of get into, you're right, we did meet. We were both single. And the crazy thing about when Taylor and I met, I've talked about this in the podcast a lot, guys, you know, that like I truly believe that you attract what you are. And when you're moving in alignment, the things that are meant for you come your way. And I do truly think looking back, meeting Taylor was a big point in my life because I went to this podcast house. I didn't know anyone. We learned now we both were kind of like, should I go? You know?
Yeah, right.
And
Exactly.
I walk in and literally one of the guys at the podcast house was like, do you want to like record a podcast right now? And I'm like, and I got to say yes, you know?
Yeah.
And so I go in and then it's Taylor and I, and I think we were doing some questions and I got really vulnerable about like my starting over. I think I was going through it and you kind of lit up because you were like, oh,
Similar.
like same journey. So like, let's talk a little for the background. You're in a relationship thinking it's going to be the one, thinking it's going to be marriage for you, and then it isn't. Like, walk me through like what that was feeling like for you.
Definitely. So, yeah, just like a little background on me. I am from Chicago, but moved to Michigan, was living there for about 12 years. And it was just like a really small town, honestly, and college town, mind you. And so I was there really from when I started college to when I was 30. So there's a lot of life like lived in there, right? A lot of dating experiences. And yeah, so kind of what ended up happening is I got into a serious relationship. I want to say I was 27, but don't quote me on that. It was around then. And, you know, got into this relationship with a really good guy, like obviously great person. And we dated for like 2.5 years. And I was just living in a town in a space where like you're married by 30 or there's something wrong with you. Like even when I was like dating in my late 20s and even when I got into this serious relationship, people would literally come up to me and say to me like, wow, like I really hope this is it, you know? And
like you're like that, your life is over if this one's not it,
well,
Taylor.
I think because also it's like it was a very small Christian Dutch town, right? And obviously still a great place, but I think there was a lot of conditioning around like when you should get married, when you should have kids. I'm also a life coach and I think that was really helpful getting into the coaching space because I think I started learning about limiting beliefs and like what is societal conditioning and, learning about that, but still having like the foundation of faith. And so when I was dating my ex, I think I started to think through some of that, but again, it's like a lot of my friends were married. And so it was a tough spot to be because I was like, okay, this is the best relationship I've had or that I've been in. Maybe this is all there is, And I'm sure you can like resonate with that too, because it's like when you get into relationships, sometimes friendships, romantic, it's like sometimes you're like, okay, this is it. Like, this is the best I've ever experienced. And I honestly think sometimes God comes in and is like, hey, I actually have something different for you that's going to be a little off like the beaten path, but it's still going to be amazing. Will you trust me? And I think a lot of people are afraid to go down that route. And I think that's how you and I connected is because we both moved to Nashville from that kind of space.
And you said something I think a lot of people can probably relate to is when they're like, I think this is the best I've ever had. This is the best I can get. And there comes a point where you're like, you kind of maybe have an inkling, like, this isn't probably for me. Like, I don't think this is the right marriage, relationship, whatever. But you're like, but it's not bad.
Right.
And it's working and I could make it work. And so what do you think really just made you realize that you were going to not just go with good enough and like something more? Like, what do you think really did that for you?
Yeah, honestly, I think a big part of it for me was community and having really awesome friends who know me really well and know when something's not the right fit for me. And like having community that knows when you're kind of like, I don't want to say pretending, but when you're kind of like, yeah, this is good enough, right? And I've had multiple friends who have gone through serious relationships ending as well as divorce. I went on a life coaching retreat and it was really funny. Like God just kept putting people on my path who had either gotten engaged and broken off an engagement or broke off serious relationships and really like what it felt like in their body. And so I think as they were describing just like the feeling of having a lack of peace and really just like not able to be like your full authentic self, I think I started like some light bulbs started to go off. And one of my favorite quotes that one of my old coaches used to say to me is like, your intuition like whispers before it screams. And I think my intuition had just been kind of pinging and going off of like, you're not going to be happy if you continue this. You can, and it's going to look really great on the surface, and you'll have the pictures and the wedding and all this stuff. And God's like, that's not really what you desire. Like it's going to appease everybody else in your life, but there's something deeper, I think, that God is after. So, especially when it's just with authenticity, whether it's friends or romantic partners. And so I kind of was like, ooh, okay, this is really hard. A lot of people in my life didn't get it, but ultimately I knew it was the right decision. And I think being out of it now, a couple of years out, I was like, that was definitely the right choice.
And I think I love that. I think I've talked about that a lot in the podcast. A lot of my episodes really, Taylor, is just how even in my life and with my ex-husband, kind of the same thing where you can stay. I could have made it work, but in your heart that it's like more. I think a lot of us get conditioned to do a lot of things for everybody else.
Yeah.
Like meaning not just like they care if you get married per se, but maybe like because everyone else be like, look at Taylor's married by 30 and the pictures are beautiful and she's a great bride. And like those things are great, but are they they're not what really makes, like if you come home every day and you don't feel seen by your partner.
Right.
Like, is that worth, a beautiful wedding picture on the wall? And I think that's what I would hope as listeners, if you're listening and you're maybe relating to that you're thinking through that, what do you really want, and now when we talk about that, think about dating. So you're like, this isn't what I want. But then you come to Nashville and you're like, but now I have to date again.
Yes. So I got the actual crash course. God's like, all right, here you go. I'm sending you in. Just get ready. You're going to have a lot of content to be able to coach other women from what you go through.
Because you're like on the front lines with like just, you come and you didn't have a ton of friends. So you're like, you got on the apps.
I did.
And you're like, here we are in Nashville. I'm on the apps. Like this is a bigger city because you're used to the smaller town. And then like, what was your initial experience is like to date, because you're going from I could be engaged and I live in a small town to I'm moving to Nashville. I know like 3 people.
Yeah.
And now I'm on the apps in Nashville, Tennessee. And I feel like
Yeah.
my people from Nashville that are listening are like, oh, girl.
Yeah, they get it. They
Yeah.
get it. Yeah, and well, for me, so when my relationship ended and I moved to Nashville, I was like, I'm giving myself 6 months from when we break up. I was like, I'm not going to date in there, right? If somebody asks me out, I'm going to say no. And of course, I like briefly went on a dating app in there, and then God was like, get off the app. So I was like, okay. So then once I finally did start dating again, I was actually meeting a lot of people organically in person, but it's really funny because there's pros and cons to both, right? It's
Mhm.
like when you meet people in person in Nashville, so many people are moving here to like make friends. They're starting over, right? Like it's a very like, I don't want to say transient city, but a lot of people are moving here from other places and they want to just be friends, right? So I'd have a lot of guys asking me to hang out, go to dinner, asking me to group of, right? So it was kind of this weird thing of like, wow, this is like really fun. But then it kind of would get kind of gray and confusing because I was like, wait a second. I want to be my husband. I probably need to, have a little bit of higher standards of like how I'm just spending my time. And so that was definitely a learning curve for me. Because again, when I was in Michigan, there just wasn't as many options to date, which probably sounds kind of bad, but like being in Nashville, it's like you come here and it's almost like whiplash because I've never met so many single people in my life, but
Mhm.
also, I hate to say it, a lot of emotionally unavailable people that you have to really sift through. And so it was definitely quite a journey, to say the least.
I do agree that it's so different. And we've talked about this before because my friends back home are all married
Yeah.
with kids. Like
Mm-hmm.
I never met so many people that were like,
Yeah.
that were like older that had never been married and didn't have kids and whatever. I mean, it's just such a difference. So you're like,
Right.
that was a big shock for me to come out and like be like, wow, it's a whole different world. It's like, it's not a good or bad or whatever. It's just
Exactly.
different, you know?
That's the thing that I tell clients or different people if they're like, they don't like where they live. It's like, there's pros and cons to both, right?
Hmm.
It's like when I was living in Michigan, it's like, it was just easier kind of just live this peaceful single life. And then it's like here, there's obviously so much going on that's so great. But then, yeah, it's like navigating the dating scene was just really interesting. But I'm really grateful because I actually was working with a coach for the first 6 months that I was living here. And I always prided myself on being like, I just have such high standards and like, I know what I want and I'm, really like sticking to it. And then I'd meet with her and I'd share with her about these guy situations I was dealing with. And it was a lot of the similar patterns that you and I have even processed from different things. And she was just like, if you really want to meet your partner, you're going to need to start getting even clearer on what you're not like tolerating really. And I think in the past, a lot of men kind of saw me as like the cheerleader, the inspired one that they kind of always have in like their back pocket a little bit. And I allowed it. And then it kind of got to a point where like, I think when moving deeper into my 30s, where I was like kind of transitioning from like the nice girl who kind of never ruffled feathers, never said no, entertained every text, to kind of being more like respected woman of like, I'm holding kind of this like sacred energy for my person. And it's like, I don't need to have a ton of guy friends that I'm calling up on the phone all the time or going out with one-on-one. Like every now and then, right, with like select people. But I was like, that's not really the type of energy that I want to hold because I want there to be space for my person to be able to come on in, you know?
Yeah. I think now that I'm single and like a lot,
Yeah.
it's
Wanting
just
to
a
be
different
out
world.
there. Yeah.
And a lot of what we read, and you and I post on threads sometimes, and we'll
Yeah.
read like, I mean, that's a whole other time, but but you see it that people are like, oh, you have all these standards. How are you going to ever meet anyone? And I always think that that's so funny because it's not like we're like, no men are good enough. No, but no,
No,
it's
absolutely
never
not.
like that kind of energy. It's just really about like who's aligned for me and do I want to give my time to that I see like
Absolutely.
where it goes, whether it is like, do I think that this friendship
Yeah.
brings enough value
Right.
to my life? Not meaning that person's not valuable, just
Right.
like, is it a good exchange of energy for me or not? And then like, or because you're right, if you're giving up all your time to all these people that aren't your husband and that's what you're looking for,
Mm-hmm.
then how do you have the space for them,
100%. You have to have, I think that's where I've seen with a lot of clients that I've worked with, I've seen it with myself. It's like almost as women, we're afraid to be alone, right? We're afraid to be like alone, like not like, doing stuff every single night, but like really sitting with yourself. And I really did that for the first 6 months after my breakup. And of course, I got to Nashville and was like doing stuff. But at the same point, like I had a lot of holidays alone, weekends alone, time by myself. It was so uncomfortable. I just remember being like, God, I'm here in my 30s. Like I'm having all these weird dating experiences. Looking back, I think it was kind of this journey of like raising my standards and like really kind of clearing out the scarcity mindsets, right? Because I think
Mhm.
there's just a lot of conditioning around being single in your 30s and 40s. And a lot of women are like afraid to let go of toxic friendships, let go of the situationships, let go of the guy that's Snapchatting you like all the time on the weekends, right? And it's like we're afraid to let go of that because we're afraid nothing else is going to come.
Mhm.
But that's literally the thing that blocks you
Mhm.
from actually what you really deeply want. And a lot of people don't own it because they're really afraid of what it's going to cost them, right? In terms of like a
Mhm.
healing season and, what if it doesn't come? And it's like you have to hold that faith and know that like God ultimately knows like the right timing and just kind of staying in that abundance mindset.
Mhm. Well, and actually that circles back to both of why we left, right? Because we
Yeah.
knew something was better. So sometimes it's
Yep.
like letting go of those things, that situationship, that,
Yeah.
relationship that isn't going anywhere with that
Yeah.
person. And it's not because you don't care about them. Like you
Yeah.
cared about, the man you almost married,
Yeah.
right? Like I cared about my
Exactly.
ex-husband, but if it's not for you, it took so much faith and trust to
Mm.
leave a marriage. Because there were times I was like, am I ever even going to meet someone again?
Right.
But you ultimately have to make the decision is like, this isn't for me. It's just kind of passing the time. That's what I came to
100%.
that conclusion. Like I could stay
Yeah.
in my marriage, but I knew inevitably it would probably end and I
Right.
would just have wasted more of my time,
Right.
and I think that's a good call out to both men and women. Like when you're dating someone or entertaining a whole bunch of people that isn't what you want.
Mhm.
Like you're not getting closer to what you want.
Mhm.
You don't have the space for it.
Yeah, and honestly, I know you and I have talked about this, but I think just in the modern dating scene, especially in Nashville, I've seen dating in a city, it's like everybody wants the emotional connection, but a lot of people haven't done the inner work to actually be ready for a
Mhm.
commitment and to be ready for what it actually takes to be in a relationship. It's time, it's energy, it's money. And it's really interesting because I've never met as many people single into their late 30s, 40s, 50s here. And then it's like you just watch the same cycles. And I've had friends and I'm just like, wow, this is just so interesting to like watch as again, I don't have it all figured out, but it's like knowing about our subconscious mind
Mhm.
and how we do stay in what's familiar. And we just repeat and repeat and repeat until you have courage to really kind of break the pattern and break the loop that's keeping you
Yeah.
stuck in what you really don't want.
And that actually is perfectly with what you said earlier about like being alone, because
Mhm.
I think a lot of people don't break that cycle. Because I have friends in my circle
Mhm.
that have been like, Heather, what do I do? I don't like to be alone.
Yeah.
And I did the same thing. I mean, I didn't date at all last year. Didn't go on one single date.
Yeah.
And it wasn't even intentionally. I did a lot of healing and I was traveling a lot for work too. I think I mentioned it in one of the other episodes. Like it was like November. My buddy's like, oh, lots of hot dates. And I was thinking, when was the last time I went on a date? And it wasn't until like the fall of the end of the year that I even realized I hadn't even went on one. And which is so wild to think about. But it was like I was busy with work, but I was really prioritizing like my own self, and being
Yeah.
alone is when you can, I would never recommend like just people be alone. I know other girls in my life that are like,
Yeah.
I'm not going to date. There's nobody out there. But I do
Mhm.
think when you can sit and be alone with yourself, that is like a power, because
Mm.
you're back to scarcity. You're not in that like, oh, but if I'm alone, it's going to be awful, because you've kind of
Mm.
like made peace
Yeah.
with being alone. And I think
Right.
that's kind of when you can be the best partner,
Right. It
because you're
is.
not like, oh my gosh, this man or this woman has to like make everything better.
Right.
Because that's so much pressure for a partner to have,
Yeah.
you know? And so
Exactly.
sitting with yourself, I guess back to it, is this like a big thing when you know that you can do
Mm.
the holidays alone?
Yep,
You
exactly.
can do those things
And you
alone?
will, and
Yeah.
it's really powerful, I think, it's just like this delicate balance, right? Of like being okay with being alone, but still owning a desire for a relationship, right? Because it's like there can be a lot of people who've been alone for 15, 20 years after a really rocky divorce or traumatic breakup. And then it's like they secretly want a relationship, but they're like, yeah, no, it's not worth the risk. But one of the things I love about you and just is that like you're comfortable alone, but you're also willing to be like, yeah, no, like I want a healthy masculine partner. And it's like, I think that's the power as a woman when you can get to that place of like, I will not settle and I'm not going to lower the bar and like what I desire. And I'm holding space for the vulnerability of like what I really want and knowing that like God is able to do it, like in his own timing and his own way.
Yeah, and thank you. Because that's kind of new for me to even
Yeah.
open my heart that way. Because I think for a
Yeah.
long time I wasn't ever bitter. I'm a big fan of men. My dad is my hero, but
Mm-hmm.
I definitely didn't know that I was like ready for that idea of
Right.
partnership. And I agree. I do know people that are like, I don't know if it's worth the risk. And even I've thought that first
Mm-hmm.
after divorce, like, you're so heartbroken. You're like, the idea of just going through that kind of pain again just seems like
Yeah.
awful. But like something that happened recently, I literally felt like God was like, you got to live.
Mm.
My last episode about like when becoming your best self becomes exhausting.
Yeah,
It's like when
personal
you're,
growth can be exhausting. If
yeah,
that's all you're focused
if
on, it's so
you
exhausting.
got to live. God's literally like,
Yeah,
go
you
live your
do.
life. You're not a healing only,
Right.
and and I've talked about this, I think, of the episode with Cade, like you kind of have to be in a relationship to find the other things that you don't even know you still need to work on,
Absolutely.
because it will mirror back to you a lot of things that you need to see.
Yeah,
And I know you've been learning that
I have.
now that so you were dating and dating,
Yeah,
and then you met someone.
I did.
So
I
this is
did.
exciting. Someone from Nashville met someone,
Yeah.
but weirdly, he's not from Nashville. But
No,
maybe
he's
that's
not from Nashville, which may be a blessing, but yeah. Yeah, no, it was really funny because I think it was back in the fall. I was on a dating app and had gone on dates with actually this really nice guy, and he was like super emotionally mature and like, had been married before, but like just so mature and such a good guy, such good energy. And I just hadn't experienced that a lot in Nashville. But then it got to a point where I was just like, okay, there's just the big things that are kind of missing in terms of like, I don't know, vision or like alignment,
priorities.
priorities,
Yeah.
stuff like that. And I had, one of my close friends was kind of like, you know what, you got to get quicker at letting stuff go because that's when things come in. And it was tough, but I was like, you know what, God, I trust you. I'm going to take a break from dating and I'm going to practice what I preach. And I went into my phone, got super specific, which I don't know if I'd gotten this specific. I even was like appearance wise stuff, which I don't usually do, truthfully. But like very specific qualities about this person and like their hobbies and what they're interested in and like how they show up and personality. And I was like, okay, I'm literally not going to date anybody unless they're like dream guy material. Like I'm not going on a coffee date. I'm not hanging out with the guy. Like I'm not doing any of that. I'm going to focus on my business and my friends and my life. And I think it was like a month. Yeah, it was like a month later that I met someone at this event. We had this like 30-second interaction. It was like so short. And then we connected on Instagram and had a lot of like mutual interests and stuff and in the coaching realm and things. And then he kind of started pursuing me and it kind of just came out of left field, but it was really funny because it was literally everything that I had written down and I didn't do a single thing to like stir this up because I was in like he actually jokes that it's like I don't want to say I put him in the friend zone, but I was just like, so even when I met him and because I was the one who went up to him, it just was like very much so like I was like, oh yeah, like I'll go up to him, like I have nothing to lose because I'm not looking to date. So it was overall just a really funny thing and a lesson for me on there's so much power in clarity, and not from a place of like, God, this is what I deserve, right? Like kind of
Yeah.
that attitude, but very much like surrender, let go. Here's the intention, and I'm going to hold to these standards and like really what I'm looking for, because that's really what I want. And I think in the past I would kind of settle for like, all right, they've got like 60% of what I want, or they're attractive, but they don't have a really deep relationship with God, or, they have all these other things, but they're really fun, or, and so it's just kind of this trade-off. And I was like, I can't keep doing that if I really want to meet my person. And so I think that was a huge shift for me personally, I think, when it came to dating. So
And I am so happy because I do feel like he is a really aligned partner for you. So
yeah.
I love that. But I was thinking about it
Mhm.
from a listener's perspective while you're speaking. And I know a lot of
Yeah.
people are probably like, well, you can't have everything. You can't just find the perfect, because I think a lot of
Totally.
people have said that when I talk
Totally.
about setting intentions about what you want
Right,
and
right,
what you
right.
deserve. It's not like you're saying like so specific that like every attribute, there's
No,
nothing about your
no,
partner that you're like, because no one's
no.
perfect. You know what I mean?
It's
And so
about the energy.
yeah.
It's truly about value alignment, energy, and your intuition. And I think that when those three are aligned, like you feel more peaceful, and like the
Mhm.
green flags, you can be your authentic self with the person. Because honestly, it's like my boyfriend is so different, like polar opposite of like any guy I've dated ever, And so it's like, it's just so interesting because, like, yeah, sometimes I think God will surprise you with something that maybe isn't on your list, right? Because there are things about him that I didn't have on the list. And I think that you're right. On the flip side of that, some people can be almost so particular because there's a fear, right? Of like
Yep.
control, right? They're
So
like,
you're
I
blocking
must
things.
have
Mhm.
everything on this list. And what I would say to that is, of course, you want to date from a space of openness. God cares about the details, right? And doesn't mean you need to be dating a supermodel necessarily, but I think, yeah, it's like having that posture of openness and surrender, but also intentionality. Because some people are dating like, gosh, I don't even know what I want. Like, all of these guys have disappointed me. But it's like, that's why healing is so important, and we've
Mhm.
connected on this. It's like once you heal, what you look for kind of shifts, right? Or even like what
Uh,
you think you is possible for you shifts, because you start expanding and start realizing like, wow, like what I thought I wanted before was maybe kind of this certain mold. Because it's like for me, I dated a very specific type of Christian guy in the past who, it would impress certain people, and it's like it was like an old version of me
Mhm.
connected with that.
And maybe your ego was like, that makes me like elevates
Yeah,
me. Not that you
right.
were like
Totally. And I wasn't
egotistical. Yeah.
conscious of it. I think
Yeah.
that was part of it. Is like I
Yeah.
was not conscious of the fact that I was doing that. And then I think now that I've grown, I'm like, yeah, like what I'm looking for is way different. And of
Mhm.
course, I, care what my parents think or care what friends think, right? But it's like the people in my life now I think are very aligned and I think know me well, and even like friends from my past, right? And so, yeah, it really is just like a journey. And I think that's why it's been helpful, recently working with a coach or someone that can kind of be a mirror for you, and learning how to be a mirror for yourself too,
Mhm.
and learning the power of like self reflection is also huge.
It's funny because Taylor is someone that was like we talked about dating all the time. And I
Mm-hmm.
just feel like for me,
Mm.
like how did you just think that like the apps just don't even like
Yeah.
how did you go back into dating after? Because I feel like a lot of my listeners
Yeah.
that have been divorced, like the idea of it after you kind of thought you had your forever, was it just your
Mm-hmm.
desire for partnership and marriage was so strong that you were like, I'm
Mm.
just throwing myself back in there? Like what do you think made it so easy for you? Like you were like, I have to be open to have this, or you know what I mean? Because
Yeah.
some people struggle with even like the
Mm.
idea of like dating. And it seems like for you, you're like,
Yeah.
I'll give me some space, but you knew you were going to go back into dating,
Yeah,
you know?
definitely. Yeah, and I wouldn't say it was easy by any means, right? But I think for me, it's like, yeah, I knew that a genuine desire for me was to be married one day, to have a family, have kids, and just have that person, right? Like have your
Hmm.
person. And, something I've even taught clients, it's like anything worth having requires vulnerability and risk.
Hmm.
And when it comes to dating, it's almost like anytime I've met a partner, like a past boyfriend or person, it was when I was in the energy of openness, right? And it's funny because I've actually never gotten into a relationship with someone off of a dating app, right? Like I've met all different people I've dated, not that there's that many, but I've met them in person. But it was funny because like with the person I'm dating now, this was the only time where I was not on the apps, like when I met him. But with previous partners, I think it was like, I was just like, okay, God, I'm opening the doors, right?
Mm.
And I think for people think like, oh, if I go on the apps, I have to meet my husband. It's like, no, you can meet your husband at the grocery store, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it's like when you start to heal and work on yourself, you start to view yourself differently and realize that, okay, like what I have is rare, right? Like the work I've done on myself, my confidence, my values, like the way I carry myself in dating, the way that I treat a partner. And that's not vanity. That's just like when you do the work on you, like we've
Mm-hmm.
talked about, when you do the work on yourself, you know what you bring to the table. And so I had done a lot of healing in those months after my relationship. And I think that one of the nice things about dating apps is, I mean, hopefully a lot of people on there are going on with the intention of at least going on dates with a romantic intention, whether it's a serious relationship, whether it's marriage, whether it's just having fun, right? And so I was kind of like wanting a little bit more clarity because I was meeting a lot of guys in person, which was great, right? But sometimes there was a little bit of lack of intention of like, hey, I would really like to take you on an official date. And so
Yeah.
I think I was kind of wanting that a little bit and kind of trying to remove myself from some of those murky gray, because we've all been there, right? Like just
Mm-hmm.
different, more situationship type things.
Like you're hanging out and you're like, what are we? But you're like, you're not going to have the
100%.
what are we? But
100%.
yeah.
And I think that something I would encourage women is like, if you're even having to ask the question of what are we, then the person that you are seeing, hanging out with, likely doesn't want a serious relationship, because when men are mature and ready for a relationship, they move differently, right? They
Mm-hmm.
are intentional from day one with
Yeah.
what they want with you. And again, not in a way of like, you're my wife or you're my person, but in a way of like, hey, I really appreciate you. I would really like to get to know you more and take you on a date, right? No crazy commitment, but just in the sense of like, they value and respect your time,
Yes.
and sometimes with certain men, I think when they're confused or when they're not doing their own healing work or clearing out some wounds and stuff from their exes, they kind of move very apprehensively and hesitantly, and women feel that, right? And then you feel insecure and you're like,
Mm-hmm.
well, what's going on here? And I think when you're in that position, it's just like not a fun place to be. So,
Yeah, I think that's a good valid point too. I got Josh Terry on my podcast and he talked about like,
mhm.
you don't have to date to be like everyone thinking that you're going to marry everyone, but you should
Yeah.
be honest and upfront with your intentions with
Yeah,
them. You know what I mean? And I think that goes both ways.
definitely.
I think just there's probably more women that are intentionally looking for like marriage,
Yeah.
but
Mm.
and I think I'm not saying men aren't looking for that too, but I do agree with you. And I've
Mm.
told my friends, like, if you're confused, then it's probably not. He probably doesn't have intentions to seriously,
Absolutely.
court you or whatever. It doesn't mean he's trying to marry you, but like, I do agree that men are very, and that's coming from someone that was like married and he had all guy friends. And like, I
Definitely.
watched that play out time and time again, that if you really
Mm.
think a girl has that potential to
Yeah.
be your partner, you're not
Right.
really taking it very lightly,
Right, because
forgetting.
she carries herself differently. And
Mm-hmm.
honestly, so much shifted in my dating life over the last couple years when I stopped entertaining the wishy-washiness, right? Like where I kind of stopped trying to stir stuff up with guys, which sounds kind of, and again, it's okay to show interest,
Yeah.
right? But it's like, if I was honest with myself, it's like I'd be the one, following them on social media, or I'd be the one in the past, not in the
Yeah. Yeah.
super in
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
last couple years, but I kind of was like, man, like I'm kind of stepping more into that masculine
Mm-hmm.
initiating type energy. And yet here I am saying I want a masculine initiatory type of partner, but I'm
Mm-hmm.
actually stepping in to fill the role from day one. So then he kind of just gets to chill a little bit.
Yes.
And
It's one thing to just like you introduce yourself to your boyfriend, right?
yeah,
When women say like, well, the man should do that, all that, it's not saying we can't be like, giving a
friendly
nudge,
and
giving a smile, giving
open.
a whatever. But I do agree that like
Yeah,
that when you're a woman, if you're like chasing that little bit, you're trying to get some validation that you have not been able to give to yourself. And
100%.
in my experience, I think that is something that adds pressure to
Mm,
men because they feel like they can feel the energy that you need. It's almost a needy energy. You need the
yes.
validation. And so
Right,
they feel like instead of just being in your aura, your energy, having a good time, being
right,
around you, and it makes them
right,
feel peaceful, whatever, have
right.
fun, they feel like, oh, she needs something from me.
Absolutely.
And then it starts the whole dynamic with like this
Mm,
obligation from the man to show up a certain way. And if I've
totally.
learned anything in my marriage or whatever, like that pressure sometimes, like when men don't have an emotional connection to you yet,
Yeah,
it just feels like unnecessary for them.
right.
You know what I mean? I think men want to show up and really do those kinds of things intentionally.
But not every man. And I think that was something that I learned too. I think the way God has even wired men and women, it's like I think men deep down want that. But then what happens is they get hurt. They date a woman who doesn't appreciate them, who really hurts them, who cheats on them, whatever it is,
Yes.
right? And then it's like suddenly they're afraid to step out and do that stuff because they haven't done any healing around it. And then they're walking around kind of resenting women, unfortunately. And
Yes.
then women are resenting men on the flip side because the men aren't stepping up to do that. It's like this crazy cycle of like hurt that's happening in the dating realm. And literally the only way to break it for yourself is for you to heal and
Mm-hmm.
to really embody that healing in such a way where you actually attract somebody else who is
Who's
also
healed.
on this similar journey or a similar wavelength of not blaming other people in the victimhood. Because there's a lot of victimhood in dating, I think.
Well, and I think that was a perfect point to what we started with. It's like you meet people that you're aligned with. Like you attract who you
Absolutely.
are. Actually, the girl that did my blowout, Claire, shout out to Claire. She was talking about even in doing hair, they're like you attract the clients that you are. So when you heal, you're not going to attract these partners that are unhealed, people that are like in those
Yeah.
cycles of victim or mad at the world.
Right.
You're not attracting those kinds of people because I almost feel like even if it's subconsciously, they can tell I'm not on that frequency. We're all
Right.
on different journeys, but
Right.
like that, it just insinuates you're not on the same floor. I'm on floor 3 and you're on floor 2. Yeah.
That's the best analogy that I've heard from a coach is like when it comes to everything is energy, right? Like everything is moving and vibrating at a certain, like you said, certain vibration. It's not like new agey necessarily to say that. That's just the way that the world operates. It's like a certain radio station, right? It's like tuning to that station of what you really deeply want if you weren't afraid of getting hurt and
Mhm.
being able to hold it, right? And so that's why I honestly think like who you surround yourself with matters when you're single because, and when you're in a relationship too, right? But I think when you're single, you don't want to be around women who are bashing men, who are doing random hookups, who are, who are even speaking badly about other women, because it's like, it's just such a low energy. And I think ultimately it's shaping you whether you realize it or not.
Mhm.
And I think it took me a bit to like kind of recognize that when I got to Nashville because Nashville gets such a bad rap for the dating scene. And I was just like, I kind of need to like remove myself from this narrative because I know what I want is possible. And it's like, I know that how I carry myself in dating is different and like the type of person that I want to attract and that I know that I'm deserving of is going to be in a similar vein, you know?
Yeah, no, I agree. And I love that because I think dating a lot of times people think it's like a numbers game and that's why they do the
Oh,
apps
it's not.
too. And I've never resonated with that. Like I
Mm,
get probability, but I definitely
right.
don't think it's just like with something so intentional about if you really do want like
Yeah.
to be married and have a
Hmm.
partnership, especially from me being married. Like when you've been married, then you like literally can put yourself back in every hard situation you went through with that person in a marriage. And there's a lot of things like, my dad died. There's so many things that you're going to go through
Yeah.
with that person.
Right.
So to just pick anybody out of a probabilities game that like wants to get married is like
No.
the wild, wild west to me. Like I could never, because it's like that person is really who you're going to do life with. And then, yeah. And then growing a family too. Like, is that the person that you want to like raise a family with? Like there's a
Yeah.
lot of big things when it comes to that. I think you can have fun. You have to be in the right. Like when I first moved to Nashville, like I wasn't thinking about dating, so it was fine to just be fun,
Right.
meet a lot of people. But now I'm not in that season anymore.
Yeah.
It just feels a lot different. So I'm trying to like navigate what that will look like in this next season.
Yeah, no, and I'm glad you brought that up because I think that I've encountered people on like both sides of the spectrum, right? The people who are like, I'm just having fun. There's kind of no intention, just kind of doing whatever. And then you have the people that are like mostly in the Christian realm, truthfully, that are like so serious about dating. They're like, all right, dating this date, this got to be him or I'm not going to say yes, right? And so it's like, and men feel that when you go on a date with them and you're going in with this really intense, like serious energy, it's repelling, right? So you have to be in a state of openness. And so it's a balance, right? Like being intentional with like what you're looking for, values, the energy you really want in a partner, as well as like surrendering the outcome and being like, I'm going to go on this date and have fun and know that this is taking me one step closer to something God wants me to learn or something about myself or about this other person that's going to get me closer to my desire. Yeah, I see people a lot and like kind of both sides of the coin. So
yeah, you got to find like the good middle. I think it all comes back to what was calling me like this year is just like, you got to have fun. You got to live and have fun. Like we were talking about that earlier. You like, you can't be in this, like you have to enjoy life. And like, whenever I decide to like make it, something I'm doing all the time, I went on that one date. We won't get into that on this one, but, but that took a lot for me and I'm glad I did it just because it was like, it'd been so long and it sounds so silly as a grown woman to be like, it was just like riding a bike, but I don't know why the nerves are there. So I'm always like, loving to hear, other people's experiences. And I'm so happy that it worked out the way that it did for you, Taylor, in that. Like, and I hope that people are listening, realizing like, look, Taylor knew what she wanted, but she wasn't the person that could call that in yet.
Right.
Right. Like she had the intention. I want to date. I want to be a wife. I want to do this. I know this person's not it. I'm willing to bet on myself and, do this really hard thing and be uncomfortable for a while and move somewhere new and start anew. Give myself some time to heal and then go be intentional. But then when you found the people you're meeting, like maybe I have to look at myself to find what I actually need from a partner because you have to be the partner you want, right? In so many ways. And so she did that and she took the step back to work on herself and become the person that she knew was worthy of a good partnership. And then what comes along? A great partnership.
Yeah.
And so I love that story for the listeners that are just kind of like, I don't even know about dating. It can look different for everybody, right? But like through and through, you were open to it.
Right.
You were vulnerable. And then when it wasn't working, you didn't shame yourself. You said, okay, let me look at myself. And you did the self-reflection work.
Absolutely.
And I think that's a big thing for anyone listening to kind of think about. Like when you work on yourself and you love yourself and you know your worth, the right things just come. And again, knowing your worth is not this I'm just too good for everybody kind of vibe.
Oh.
And I think a lot of people get that misconstrued a lot when people like, especially when women like, oh, I want this certain thing. It's never about I'm better than everyone else. I'm too good for those people.
Absolutely.
It's just about what works for me. And we're allowed to want something compatible for the life that we want to build.
Yes, it's funny being in the coaching space and like I said, being on Threads or these different platforms. And it's like how triggered people will get when you share your personal standards. Because that's what they are, personal. Like you get to decide what it is you want, what's in alignment for the life that you want. Because at the end of the day, like when you look back on your life and you're 85, 90, God willing, you don't want to be like, yeah, I chose this partner or I settled for this because my parents liked them or because they made a lot of money or because of XYZ. you're going to want to say it with somebody that you genuinely, authentically chose for yourself,
Mhm.
and that's a journey, right, to go on, because a lot of us choose partners for sometimes the wrong reasons, or to fill the space, or because we're a certain age, and not because they're truly in alignment with like our authentic self. And yeah, it's definitely a balance for sure, but I think that's a really important reminder.
Yes. And then I'll kind of close out by saying, like, this is something I saw, and you've probably seen it before, that was like, people want to judge about people having like boundaries or setting like what their intentions for their partnership, but it is literally the one person that you can pick to spend your life
Exactly.
with. Like the one person, like you
100%.
didn't pick your parents, you don't even pick your children. You can pick your friends, but they're not like always there. This is like the ride or die
Yeah.
partner for the rest of your life.
Right. Who you marry is this one of the single most important decisions you'll ever make, because they're the one you're going to have like 25,000 plus dinners with, vacations, who you got, have kids with if you end up having kids, like who is going to hear about your day a million times, your dreams, your
When your
desire.
parents pass away, when you're
Yes.
everything.
It's literally everything, and they can become your biggest hindrance and blocker, or the biggest expander. And I think that when I was in my early 20s, I didn't realize that. I
Mhm.
really genuinely was just like, okay, I just need a nice Christian guy who I'm attracted to, and I can settle down in this small little town. And again, there's literally nothing wrong with that. I have friends who've done that, and it's been amazing for them. And I think for me, something never quite clicked, right, with the right person, because I think God's like, I'm going to have you in a different city. I'm going to have you doing different things. And one's not better or worse, because everyone's path is so
Mhm.
unique. But you're right. It is like one of the biggest decisions you'll ever make. And I think some people make it out of like default rather than like having it be something that's super intentional, because there's
Mhm.
fear. It's like some scarcity, which is understandable, but
Yes. And I think that's why healing doesn't need to be your whole life, but healing
no.
should
Mm-mm.
happen, because that is when you
Absolutely.
finally know what you really deserve and what you really want from your life,
Mhm.
is when you've worked through finding yourself and that self-love. But it's really just like finally saying, like, I'm going to choose from my authentic self. Like, I'm going to be me, love me, and make choices that make me happy.
Right.
And that's just the life I'm going to live. And then that's where everything else, I think, just starts falling into place for you, because you know who
Exactly.
you are, and you're kind of just settled in that, and it feels more content
Yeah.
instead of scarcity and like worry and I can't be alone. Like you lose a lot of that
Mm.
anxiety. Or if it comes up, because I'll be honest, it has, even,
Yeah.
then you know how to move through it. Like, it's always worked out for me before, it will,
Absolutely.
you know, God's timing.
Yeah. Yeah, God's time is certainly not our timing,
Yeah,
is
yeah.
it? But
No, no.
you're right
But
though. It's a journey of becoming more than anything,
mm,
right? Like you said, like I honestly think, and I see this with so many clients, so many friends, it's like they go through this phase where God's just stripping stuff away or blocking like a certain relationship, right? And they're single again, or kids going off to college. It's like it's literally like God's like initiating you into a deeper level of self-love, because there's more healing that needs to happen. And when it's not about like being okay being alone, like fully alone, because it's like we're created for partnership and for community. It's really learning to sit with yourself and love yourself like a
mhm,
friend, right? Like building that relationship. And I know that was like the biggest shift for me. I think being in Nashville is like learning to love my own company, and not in like a weird way, because I still have great friendships and things I love to do, but like loving a night in and like being okay
mhm.
with like, I don't have plans tonight. I don't have any dates scheduled, back when I was single, and like
Yeah.
being like, this is actually kind of fun. Cause when you are in that energy of self love, I think that's really what makes you magnetic, and that's when so much stuff like comes into your life. And that's like the secret, but it's like people aren't willing to go through the discomfort
Uh-huh.
to kind of push themselves through that. But
And that's what I'll end it with. Go through the things that, like, the
yeah,
discomfort, everything that you desire from life is truly behind, like, you moving through the fear and the
absolutely.
discomfort. Like, that is when it arrives. There isn't like a cheat code, like, truly. Like, I've tried, I've like prayed about
Mm,
it a lot. Can we just get a easy street cheat code? But it's, we're
yeah,
not meant to know all of the ways that things are supposed to happen, but we can control how much joy and love that we bring into our lives with ourselves. We're the only person that we can control. And so it's just so important to kind of lean into that. So Taylor, it was so great to have you on.
So fun.
Taylor has her own podcast as well. It'll be in the show notes so that you can find it. And you'll definitely have to check that out. And if you got anything from this episode, I would love for you to leave a review, give the podcast 5 stars, share it with someone in your life that maybe needs to hear this perspective if they're going through it, dating, trying to get back out there, all the things. Because I just want more people to know that they matter. They will find their partnership, working on ourselves, but we're not a constant project. We just need to find more joy and more love in who we are.
Absolutely.
This was Wandering the Wild Mess with Heather Morgan. You matter. Thank you for wandering the wild mess with me. If today's episode helped you see your story a little differently, I'm so glad. Make sure to share it with someone else who might need it. Keep listening for more lessons, reframes, and reminder that your path is unfolding exactly as it should. Until then, keep trusting the mess.